the Lincoln Park Jewish Center, and el Centro de Estudios Judíos Torah de Manny, from 311 Central Park Avenue, Yonkers, New York, presents Divrei Torah with Rabbi Manny.
And now we also talked about clef, and now we'll assemble.
Just to finish that, you asked about when they switched over. The promulgator of cloth, what we call cloth, parchment, was the Rabino Tam, who put out another big kiddush that when it says you have to write on gevil or cloth or whatever, it doesn't mean actual cloth. This is an amazing kiddush. It means anything which has the properties of cloth, meaning it's a kosher skin, and you preserved it in some way, which is not the way it says in the Gemara, right? It's a huge kiddush. So therefore, what you actually come down to is, if the Rabbeinu Tam was here and you wanted to give him an aliyah, you would not take the aliyah because the dio is not kosher according to him. And the Rambam would not take the aliyah because the cloth is not kosher according to him. Right? You can't win all the battles, right? And I'll give you just one nice line from Kiryas Sefer from the Meiri, because there are so many different opinions on what's kosher, what's not, which side to write on, which is cloth, which is the sustas, which is gvir. It's like you can't cover all the bases. So the Meiri says, what I say is cloth, the Rambam says is the sustas. What the Rambam says is the sustas, I say is cloth. Therefore, what I say is a kosher lechatchila pair of tefillin, the Rambam says is possible b'di'evid. What he says is kosher lechatchila is according to me possible b'di'evid. My nevad, this is the Meiri. Rachmana liba boy, make yourself a pair of tefillin. Take the Rambam, take me, put on tefillin. Finish. He didn't think to invent another 20 different kinds of pair of tefillin, right? That's not where they were coming from. Now, after you have these 50 or 60 skins, and we don't want to go hogba and have them all fly all over the place, right? So this is another halacha l'Moshe Sinai. You have to attach one urea to the other with gidin. Gidin from a behema tahora, right? Everybody, because we're like a Yiddish-speaking group, right? Everybody translates gidin as uderin, and therefore, since uderin also means veins, whenever you go to some school to teach, everybody's telling you that they're sewing the Torah together with veins. You can't sew a Torah together with veins, right? You're using tendons, right? And tendons are that part that connect the muscles to the bones, and they're very, very strong. The question is which tendons? This is another way where you don't read the books, because the books were written a long, long time ago in different countries, 1,000 years ago, all different places. And people have a tendency to read something in a Mishnah Berurah or a Rambam and assuming that absolutely nothing has changed, right? But when you read the Rambam, this is what the Rambam says, which is quoted in every single sefer. Lokchin gidin min ha'ekev, you take tendons from the heel and you marachachin osan ba'avonin, and you smash them down with stones and you spin them the way you spin wool or cotton, whatever, or flax, right? Again, so we tried this, and guess what? It doesn't work, right? Because we're not doing what the Rambam said, right? You do not end up with the product that we're using. So if you actually do this and you get the tendons from the heel, the Achilles tendon, there is no way for you to break it down. It's like a striated construction. So there's no way for you to actually separate these fibers into anything useful that you could actually end up with our thread. You actually have thread, see? I didn't bring thread, right? Thread like this, right? That's not this. With the kind of thread that you get from Eretz Yisrael, right? So apparently, to actually research this is a very, very big secret, right? I mean, a really big secret, because in order to know how to put this together, I give a lot of these talks, and nobody's telling you exactly how to spin gidin, right? Because only one or two families in Yerushalayim know how to do this. This is their parnasa, like secret stuff. So somebody was listening to one of my lectures, and she told me there's a lady in Monroe from the Gottlieb family, and she spoke to her, she's willing to, and she makes thread, amazingly good thread. So she made an appointment, and I made an appointment to go to her. She's going to teach me. Then I call up to confirm, and she said, well, it's a little problem because she spoke to her sister in Yerushalayim, and they're a little upset that she's telling everybody how to spin thread, so she has to charge me. Okay, charge me. How much are you going to charge me? $5,000. I went, whoo! You know, and this was like around 30 years ago. So that's a lot of thread, you know. I'm not paying $5,000, right? So she's giving me a short course for $1,000. I said, you know what? Just make me some thread, because I need thread, right? So I went up to get the thread to Monroe, and as she's showing me this stuff, she says, okay, you know, we make it from this, and I go, that's very nice, right? But where does this come from? I don't know. Right? But you don't know? No. They give it to her, and then she's going to turn it into thread, right? But where does this come from? Nobody's saying. So I asked like every veterinarian that passed through my house, right? And every menaker, and my wife's first cousin is the chief menaker for the OU, right? Hershel Ashkenazi. Where is this coming from? Nobody knows, right? Nobody knows. Nobody's talking. They can't recognize it. Look, it's dried now. I don't know where it came from. I can't tell you, you know. Finally, I took it to this Rabbi Manny, and I asked him. He used to be in Muncie, now he's in Staten Island, Yemenite rabbi, and he went like, look, I don't know what this is, because my father died when I was young. Had my father told me, I would know what this is, right? If you go to Rosh Hashanah, you could find 1,000 people who tell you exactly what it is, right? Okay, I'm not in Rosh Hashanah, right? A couple of weeks later, I go to his house. He has a little guy sitting at the end of the table. Little Yemenite guy just came from Yemen. He tells me, this guy, bring it next Wednesday, making bar mitzvah, he'll know what this is, right? So I bring it to the bar mitzvah, which was like a National Geographic special, right? People, weird dressed people, right? And I come in there, and that Yemenite guy's not there, but he has two little kids, before bar mitzvah. Both kids come over and go, this, right here. Right over here. That's where this is from. And the other people start making fun of them, like, yeah, maybe it's from here, maybe it's from here. Okay. Father comes in his regular costume, which is pretty scary, right? So he goes, yeah, this, right from over here, right? Later on, I was in Eretz Yisrael, so Rav Giat in Yerushalayim took me down to Beit Shemesh. He was teaching some kids, they weren't married yet, teaching them shechita. One was going back to Azerbaijan, some other place. And he shechted sheep, and he showed me where this is from. Exactly over here. Now, in order to turn this into thread, you have to pound this down. It separates into fibers like this, right? And then these fibers are, by hand, right, twisted together. And each fiber is like that long. And you make a whole row of them. They overlap. How they actually do it in Eretz Yisrael, they pour water on a black table. You put the two fibers like this, they take their hand and they go zap, right? And they twist together. And they keep doing that. Then they take a Kinley can, right? And they wind the thread on that soda can till they have 60 or 70 meters, right? They sell Geden 50, or they sell it as Meya Amma, right? So it pays, in this particular case, it pays to go according to the Chazon Ish, you get 10 extra amma, 10 meters more of thread for your money, right? So they wind it on a can, and that thread is very, very, it's very schwach, very, it's not going to hold the Torah together. So they start again, and they have another can. So you have two threads. Then, one of two ways, either they attach it to the middle of a bicycle wheel, the two threads, and they pull out the slack. Somebody else spins the wheel, and the two threads spin together to a 2-ply thread, which is what you're buying over here, right? Or you can just put a paper clip at the end of a electric drill, and again you let out the slack, and somebody pulls the trigger, and it spins the two threads together. That's what you're buying over here. This, at the present time, a spool of thread costs approximately $90 to $100. When I started in this field, it cost like $10. And even allowing for inflation, the point is you had many, many, many Oriental women sitting on the floor spinning thread, right? And all those people, their kids are flying El Al planes. They're not sitting on the floor spinning thread. So you have to get good thread, and it's very labor intensive. And since this is not spun the way the Rambam said, just pulling fibers like cotton, each thing is individually spliced together, just very labor intensive, right? Yeah.
Is this all have to be done manually, or?
Oh, you could do it anyway. The point is, there is some sort of thread, which is probably what the Rambam's talking about, which is called Sephardi Gidon, which even the Sephardim don't use, because it doesn't compare to the quality of this. This is much, much stronger, right? But this is not what you read about in the books. This is just passed down what people did, right? And then the Teimanim have a different thread, which is like no work whatsoever. When they shech the animal, they pull out a branch of the Gid Hanosha, and you can only pull this out in one piece when the meat is hot, right after the shechita, and they slide it out, and you just hang it up to dry for 15 minutes, and put it through a needle and sew. But that's not a tendon, that's a nerve, right? So that's...
And why don't we use that?
We're used to using this. I don't know. And that only comes in little, and it comes in little pieces. I asked Rabbi Belsky, because it's not a tendon. The word gid has like no specific meaning. Anything that's long and thin in halakha is called gid. There's a whole question whether you could use in Shulchan Aruch, whether you could use intestines, right? So they say that if you have something put together with gut, you should untie it when you have gidin and put it together. And I spoke to this Rav Giat. He met Jews from Kurdistan, right, who use, intestines to sew together. And the Shulchan Aruch brings down, and I saw this once on the east side, from a really, really, probably 1,000-year-old Sefer Torah. And the Shulchan Aruch discusses it. If you laced the Yaviyas together with strips of cloth, which is a certain word for a French word or something. Toulandrish or something. They have a certain word, right? Little strips of parchment that they actually laced the whole Sefer Torah together with, right? And again, the poskim now are very like...
Tight.
What?
It held tight with just a piece of cloth.
Yeah, well, it's woven in, it's like a lace.
A weave.
They're woven in, right? But that you won't see anymore. That's like from 1,000 years ago, right? But you see, you discussed in halacha, a lot of these things you can't tell what they're talking about because they don't exist anymore, But again, this is the kind of thing, if you ask any surfer that's learning from Mishnah Berurah or from a sefer, yeah, you take it from the heel, this and that, and give the whole shear and this and that. They have no clue, really, because you have to really try these things, and you have to get the words right. The words don't have the same meaning. I mean, you take English, right? English doesn't have the same meaning for somebody written in 18-something. It's almost unintelligible, right? Medical stuff. Like I read these formulas sometimes, you can't find out what they're talking about. Liver of sulfur, and go ask somebody what that is, right? The terms changed. Same thing over here. You're talking about, even in the klaf area, there's a quote, "Klafim shalonu heichon kosher," right? And you automatically think, oh, our klaf that I went down to 13th Avenue in Borough Park and I bought our klaf. No, he's talking about living in France in the the 10th century. You have no clue as to what he's talking about, what our klaf means, because you think it's very nice on one hand that Rashi's sitting across from you learning, but he's not, So. Okay, so that's the deal with the Gidon. Okay.
So now, we're going to make something to write with. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this I'm going to make a pen out of bamboo. Mr. Miyagi, right? You watching? It's very important that So now I have a piece of bamboo. And what I'm going to do, this knife may work. Yeah, you're sitting in the splash zone. You should have worn your like at SeaWorld. By the way, you know where I learned how to make gidon? I learned it on Sesame Street. That's true. On Sesame Street, they had a show where there was a Native American woman making sandals, moccasins, and I couldn't believe my eyes. She had a piece of gid, and I'm saying, "Wow, this is amazing!" And she's turning the gid, right? And then I said, "I can't believe what I'm looking at." Then she was sewing the moccasins. I said, "Wow, that's great." So I started ordering. I actually went to a powwow And I met. You can learn a lot at powwows. They're amazing. So I went to one of these. Older gentleman there who was a judge at the dances. So I took a piece of gid with me. Oh yes, he knows exactly where it was from, and he showed me. It was very, very interesting. He said only the women do this. He says the men don't waste time with this. Basically, what I'm doing here is I'm just whittling down the. Not yet. Nice. Are you surprised that I didn't show you with a feather? You know that the Gemara says that this is really the best way. To make a nice pen, you have to use spit. If you don't spit on it, it won't write. It sounds almost like a joke, but I have to tell you that it really is. The spit is a very important part. By the way, I usually make my pens. I found I pick garbage. You know those people who see nice garbage. All right, admit it. You pick garbage also. No, am I the only one? I was driving and I saw one of these bamboo shades, right, in someone's garbage. So I pull over. My wife said, "Oh, you're going to take the garbage, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, that's good garbage." I took the lamp. I took the bamboo shade. I have hundreds of pens. They make really good slats, and basically, you have to wet it down. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shape the pen. I'm going to take, do you have hair? Take a little hair. This is, Rabbi Schneider and I are like witches brew, tail of a cow and piece of bamboo. And so basically I'm going to take a double-edged razor blade. Oh, I love this story. I was shopping in a pharmacy in Riverdale, and there's a frum guy, a Telzer guy. That's a frum guy. Right behind me, and he sees me buying razor blades. So genius, he sees me, right? I have a whole package of razor blades. So he taps me on the shoulder. He says, Shalom Aleichem. He says, I don't know if you know that it's osur to shave. So I thanked him. So I stayed online. I'm buying the razor blades. So he's getting more and more frustrated. So he taps me again. I don't know if you understood, but it's osur to shave. So I said, thank you very much. So I understood when you said it. I understood. Very nice. So then he's about to explode. So I decided to torture him a little bit. So then he kept on letting me know that it was osur, and I kept on thanking him. So then finally, all right, what are you going to do with it? So I told him I'm a sofer. I erase with them. That's number one. And I shape things with them. So the double-edged razor blade is really, really sharp. So what I do is I go right in the middle of the channel, and I cut it. And then, secret recipe, very important, you have to take a hair. These are the hairs from the tail of the cow. And you take it and you shove it into the slot. And then you trim that off. So that it doesn't get in the way of the writing. And basically, that's the pen. Now, if you want to, the size of the letter is going to be modified by how narrow or how wide the top of the nib is going to be. Now, one of the things that is a very nice thing to think about is that these are made out of grasses. So a lot of people will say, well, the idea behind it is that when you write a Sefer Torah, you want it to be made with a material that would be very flexible. So I heard somebody tell me, very nice idea, that when life gives you a nice wallop, you shouldn't break. You should be able to bend, right? We have the story in the Gemara of the Rav he spoke badly to somebody, and then he followed him and he bowed and he begged him for forgiveness. We have the idea that there should be a certain amount of humility. You know, it's I feel so like I'm trying to convince people to be humble. I don't know if that's such a good thing. It's so uncommon, yeah? But that's one of them. I'll show you a feather pen. I saved this one for this occasion. A tail feather is always a very good one. The tail feathers are big and strong and hard.
What animal is that?
This is a goose feather. I like the turkey feathers are better. They're harder, right? But always the tail feather. So basically the way you do this one is that you take the feather in your hand and you go where the spine of the feather is, where the spine is, and you hold it up. You're in the splash zone. And basically you just trim it off. You get all that, there's like a pith in here that has to be removed. How are we doing for time? Are we in trouble? Oh, it's early. It's 10:30. We're supposed to be finished at 10:30. I'm taking off all of this stuff that's on the edge of it because later it'll get in the way of the writing. This one doesn't require spit. But it does require, if you look at the pen, by the way, that I passed around, there's a little channel that I made with that razor blade. That's what pulls the ink down. And the hair that is actually stuck in that channel is in order to keep it open. And it's just wide enough to allow the ink to flow down beautifully. I'm going to trim off some of this, and I'll pass this around. When I cut the pen here, it split, so I don't have to cut a channel in it. I would rely on it, but I don't really know that the pen is finished until I actually try it. But I'll pass this around just so you get a sense of this. Yeah? Questions? Yes?
You've got bamboo, you've got feather. What materials can't you use to make a pen?
Well, there is a minhag, which is a nice minhag, not to use iron. But the other stuff is good. I just saw somebody gave me some nibs, as Rabbi Schneid was talking about. You put them on the end of a pencil. They're made out of plastic. And the really nice thing, they come with a hechsher. has a hechsher on it, so it must be kosher. So you can trim them to shape. They're pretty good. I prefer to use plastic nibs that you put on the end. Yeah.
How far down do you go to in the inkwell with that feather?
Just enough to wet it, but you don't want to use too little because then you have to keep on dipping.
How many letters can you do with one?
One or two, maybe three. Depends on what you're writing. Yeah.
Going back to where we began, could you use felt? Could you use
Felt, absolutely.
A wide variety of artistic felt.
Absolutely. You could use
The
it.
whole thing?
Yes, you could. You could. We'll still be kosher. Right?
Is it done?
Rabbi?
Felt tip wouldn't work the same way with our ink though.
It would not work the same, but if you hardened it, it would flow. It would flow well. Should I try the? Let me try the pen to see if I actually made something that would work. Let's see. Can you pass me back the bamboo pen? Rabbi, do you want to wrap this up? No, wrap it up. Let me just try it. You know about this thing? Very important. That's happened. Actually, when Rabbi Schneid was talking about the fact that if you wash this, it doesn't come off, the ink, I have a pair of tzitzis that I wear while I'm writing, and often I'll wipe off the thing. It's filled with marks of marked living. Yeah. So this is what.
Is that
Yes,
Spanish?
Spanish. If I'm gonna write, I do it right.
Okay, just to wrap it up, tie it all together, that there's the practical side, and if you want to learn the practical side, learn it from people who practice. Today, this is in a very precarious position because you don't have, there was a time, and not too long ago, like the previous generation, people told me that on the east side, and back of Torah Vadas and Tiferes Yerushalayim, people actually had skins not nailed onto the back fences of the buildings, right? The Sofer made their own skins. They made their own ink. They made their own thread. They did everything themselves, right? I had somebody in Muncie who very nice old couple, and the wife remembers that her father made her future husband spilling for his bar mitzvah in the double sink in the kitchen on the Lower East Side. He panned it in the kitchen sink, right? So people did all this stuff themselves, right? And they knew exactly what they're doing. But that today is like everything else in this religion is all standardized. If you want to see lines today on parchment, Sofer doesn't do it. It's made by a machine. Sofer doesn't make cloth. He has no idea what cloth is, where it came from, anything about it, right? Because he went to a cloth factory in Rehov Chevrat Tilim in the Shuk, and he bought cloth. The ink, he has no clue as to what the ingredients of the ink are, right? No clue. And they'll learn of Gemaras and Rushes and twist the words in order to make the words fit to something which doesn't even exist, right? Because they're mistranslating the language, and that it's a very sad situation, right? And they're going to tell you again, they're going to read the Mishnah Berurah, the Geden come from here and there, and it doesn't, right? So if
And
you
they
want to
look
learn
smarter. They look
anything
smarter than
practical,
us. They look smarter
right?
than us.
And further too, right? And so if you really want to do this, everything you read, not just in this area, but just do it and see if it really works, and see if what you're reading is what's really in the real world, right? And hopefully there'll be Sofim who just actually keep this actually going instead of just, now it's basically like paint by number, right? I mean, there's Sofim literally, they can't make lines, they can't make ink, they don't have to cut a pen, you don't have to do anything.
They're laid out. They
Right.
have
You still need a good handwriting.
Not
In fact,
really.
I'll tell you something, even a good handwriting, well, I don't want to get into the whole handwriting, but the whole handwriting bit is like, you have things today, which is my main purpose of my life, right? is to, like, the style today is to puzzle everything, right? And I didn't want to get the whole story, but I personally gave Rav Moshe Feinstein's stone to the powers that be without telling him who it was, and of course it came back puzzled, right? Because the person who wrote it was the Lubavitcher Rebbe's personal sofer, who wrote it to order for Rav Moshe Feinstein, right? And it was written like real Russian style from 150 or 200 years ago, which is what
With the
Rav Moshe
base-
wanted,
with the base
right?
on the
Yeah.
back, yeah.
So everything has changed because everybody's smarter than the previous generation, right? And every Sefer Torah that's written, this doesn't match the Mishnah Berurah. Well, of course, the Sefer Torah was written before the Mishnah Berurah was born. What you're expecting it to match it with the Mishnah Berurah. So you have like a certain halachic. I see it even in my class in YU. Like, Rav so and so said, that's it. I don't know if that's it. We see what we have. We have parents. We have grandparents. You don't grow up in the gutter, right? And we see what was there before, right? And there's a certain klal which seems to have died, right? That ein lahotzi laz ala kadmonu, right? We know this existed, it's there, right? Deal with reality. But you want to alter reality and alter history and say, well, I see books like this, Well, they didn't know what they were doing. We have testimony that the Sofrim were bad. Like all the Sofrim were bad, all the Shoftim were bad, the Menachem were bad, all the Jews were bad. They weren't all bad, right? And the percentages of bad people that they have, we also have, right? And the people knew what they were doing, and they knew how to kosher meat, and your grandmother knew how to kosher a chicken, and you don't need Rebbe Yasher to come down with a new sock on how to kosher a chicken because they did it already, right? This is all done before, right? And you're talking about Sephardi script, this script. I mean, Rav Moshe Shita was like, they're all good. What are you? You're going to tell me yours is better than the other ones? They're all good. There's no 100%. This thing has developed over 3,000 years, right? And we're not me, right? To turn around and say that you invented the first kosher pair of tefillin in Borough Park, right? Or B'nai Brak. It's not where it comes from, right? That's the wrap-up. Okay, then you have another lecture.
the Lincoln Park Jewish Center, and el Centro de Estudios Judíos Torah de Med, from 311 Central Park Avenue, Yonkers, New York, presented Divrei Torah with Rabbi Manny. Visit our websites www.torahtropical.com and www.lpjc.org. Shalom.